Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, aka Starrapter, here with Ben for Outer Rim Transmission. This is episode 123. We are talking tonight about Ahsoka, episode 6, titled Far, Far Away. So much to get into with this episode. The introduction of Nightsisters, the introduction of the long-awaited Grand Admiral Thrawn, and, spoiler alert, we know we get into spoilers all the time, they have finally found Ezra. Sabine has found Ezra. So there's so much to get into this episode. So much lore, as you put it before the show, Ben. So much loose ends getting tied up already. And there's still 2 more episodes after this one tonight that we're talking about. So yeah, cannot wait to get into it. So much excitement is about to come our way. So what's going on, Ben?
Oh yeah, I mean it's been a nice weekend for me. Just watching football all weekend basically, and just doing the normal fitness stuff. And I've been looking forward to talking about this episode. I mean, it was such a good episode. Like you said, there was so much involved in it. So many things that we saw. So many things that we can theorize about. So many things that we can speculate about going into actually not even next week, 2 days from now. And it's exciting that there's so much excitement around the show. Like I actually see people like speculating, theorizing, and just talking about this show. It feels like a lot more, like I said before, since Mando season 2, I don't think we've had this type of like fan talk in the community. You see a lot more people like posting videos, posting stuff on social media. And now, like, the good thing with this show, don't get me wrong, you can critiquing things aren't negative. But the good thing about this show is, like, the stuff you see people talking about online, it's not like critiquing, like debating critiques of the show. It's people actually having fun debating like theories and ideas each week going into the different episodes and stuff. Like, this coming week, I've seen a lot of people already talking about like the Night Troopers and stuff. Like, so that's like a thing a lot of people are talking about. So, it's great getting to see the fans having fun with Star Wars versus just infighting,
Yeah, it's very much a different vibe from a long time ago. I wouldn't even say a long time ago, but just, Last Jedi was the first thing that spawned it. Rise of Skywalker, Book of Boba
Yep.
Fett had some negativity. Mandalorian season 3, I don't know. It's just, I think a lot of people just didn't really like it, so it doesn't really count as polarizing, but Andor
Yeah.
certainly was polarizing. On this very show, we are still polarized to this day about Andor, and I don't think either of us will ever let that down, but that's a whole other thing, right? But
That's the fun of it though. See, that's the thing with Star Wars Online. Over the past few years, like, people have been put in an angle, or like put things in an angle. You have to be in one camp or the other, and if you're in the opposite camps of each other, you have to hate each other. And like, you and me, you love Andor. I really don't like that show. Like, there are good qualities to it, but I don't like it. And we can still be friends. We talk every day basically. But the thing is, the internet would have you believe, like, there shouldn't be a single way we should be able to do a podcast together every week talking about Star Wars because we have different opinions. Like, so it's nice that, like, here at Outer Rim Transmission, like, all of us can just, like, hey, have our opinions, have fun with it. Like, you always crack jokes or poke at me about Andor and stuff, and I'll poke back about it, whatever. But it's all in fun. But like, the internet just makes it seem like, man, if we have a different opinion, like, I shouldn't even talk to you, which is like completely wrong. It's like, it's just a movie franchise at the end of the day. It's like, have fun with it, people.
yeah, seriously, that's the end of all B haul right here on Outer Rim Transmission. We are a very positive Star Wars community,
Yeah.
and that leads me to transition into some housekeeping. So yes, we go live every Sunday around 7 p.m. Eastern time. We also are available to have our episodes downloadable in any podcast streaming app of your choice, Spotify, Apple. Make sure you go ahead and give us a 5-star rating to help make it easier to find our podcast, Outer Rim Transmission. Yes, I am also part of the Tractor Beam Weekly Comics podcast with Matthew from Ion Cannon and the Star Wars Underworld Network. We go live every Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, or 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time, to talk the latest in Star Wars comics. So we would love you guys to bring your comics, bring your lunch, and take your lunch break with us as we dive into the latest that is Marvel and Dark Horse and everything in between on the printed page. I think that about does it. Yeah, of course, I always have my comic books that came out that I talk about. This week we have Bounty Hunters issue number 38 and D Squad issue number 1. Yes, D Squad, as in they have a reimagined D Squad from the Clone Wars. Yeah, we have a couple characters, R2, Whack. So that's kind of fun so far. It ties into the Dark Droid storyline, but yeah, good stuff there. And if you catch us live, you can always be a part and a participant of our live chat. We would love for you guys to join in on the banter, join in on the speculation, the theorizing, all the fun stuff that a lot of the times people in the chat will bring up really good points, and I do my best to kind of keep updated as we are live. And like last week, there was a couple comments that came in, and I'm reacting to, oh my gosh, those are such great ideas. I probably should go back in time and like see if any of those actually came to fruition, because some of them are really good ideas, and we would love to hear your good ideas by joining us live every Sunday in the chat at 7 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/Starrapter. So with that done and out of the way, I want to devote this entire hour to this episode because I could probably go on a lot longer than an hour, but we try to keep things concise here at Outer Transmission. But overall thoughts on this episode are, I really like this episode, Ben. I like I said in the chat, I think if you strip away a lot of the nostalgia and stuff, this is still a pretty good episode. I mean, what this episode did was it pushed the plot forward, and I gotta congratulate everybody that's on the team here, especially with Filoni as the head writer, is the momentum that this series has. It doesn't take a breath. Every episode, we are getting some really good resolution and still throwing in some really intriguing storylines and ideas, and that kind of, like you said, stoke the community on the weeks between to really get into everything, as far as like, oh, this is Star Wars, this is our speculation, right? So really enjoying that. But yeah, just big moments. Nightsisters looked awesome. That we're gonna spend most of the time probably just talking about Thrawn entrance, his demeanor, everything, the dialogue, everything there. Ezra, the creatures looked awesome. The music was awesome. The special effects were awesome. So yeah, I'm just very, very positive on this episode. What about you, Ben?
Oh yeah, I mean, I loved this episode. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. Like for me, I don't mind like any type of nostalgia as long as it's done well, which this was done well, so hey, cool. And then like even at that, I think they just did an overall really good job with the episode, from, you know, the characters to the story to like pushing the story forward. Plus also it felt like it was a good episode coming off of the high of last week with the with all the stuff that went on last week. Like, just because the thing is with all these series, and any series really, I mean, you could see it with Game of Thrones, you can see it with anything. Like, a show has a high episode like that, there's always a slower episode.
Yep.
Or a slowish episode. It doesn't matter what series it is. You can go to any series in history, and I'd be willing to bet you if you have a halfway, like a midpoint episode that's high, I guarantee, like they always did that on Arrow. Arrow would always have their mid-season finale, and then the very next episode would be like just kind of a slow character story episode. That's it. And that's pretty much what we got here. But the good thing is with this one, you know, we got a lot of cool stuff that went into this episode. So like, you know, for me, it's fine. So I really enjoyed it. And then, like I said, the characters, like from, you know, obviously Ezra to Thrawn to the Noti, the creatures, to the Nightsisters, to the Night Troopers, like all the stuff surrounding them, and even Captain Enoch and his unique look. I'm just really excited to see where the story goes. Also, there's a lot of things that we can discuss about in terms like details on, you know, what's this about, what's that about. But those are kind of like my initial impressions of the episode, and I feel like it's a good setup for the final two. And also, you know, something to keep in mind, like while we're talking about all these things, like folks, when you're like listening to this podcast and watching Ahsoka, like this is going to be our only Star Wars content for quite some time. So like definitely like brace yourselves, like, you know, breathe, you know, take this all in for the next few weeks, because we might be in like it's like the whole winter's coming thing in Game of Thrones. Really. But we might be in like some dark times for a while until the next bit of Star Wars content. So try to like soak it in as much as you can, like the hype and anticipation of building up to the next episode, because it might be a while.
Yeah, we have Real Farm Boy. Thanks for joining us live and thanks for promoting the podcast. I see what you're doing out there on X or Twitterland. Very good, positive Twitter handler that is listening to the latest and greatest Star Wars podcast. So definitely give him a follow. But yeah, howdy, Ben and Chris. I was blown away by part 6, and it looks like so were me and Ben. So we're going to get into it. As we do, we're going to go in from kind of chronological order. And I didn't think Ahsoka would be in this episode really at all, but I was happy to at least see her for just a few minutes, just getting inside the head of Huang. And oh my gosh, how meta was this, Ben? When Huang just decides, I have all these stories, and is he the narrator of Star Wars?
Yep.
I know that, yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I know whether Dave confirms it or not, to me anyways, and to many other Star Wars fans I've seen online, the new headcanon retcon is Huang is the narrator of all the Star Wars movies and anything we see in Star Wars now, because it has to be. Why else would they have Huang do the introduction to the crawl? So that means he is the narrator, and he's been around all these generations. Like, he's talked about it. So he's been around all the content we've seen. So that means he's going to be narrating, or he's the narrator of, the prequels, sequels, original trilogy, all and everything else in between. So I loved it.
Yeah, it was a nice touch. It was a very nice touch. We always thought that like R2 and C-3PO, right? New Hope, you spawn in to that storyline. You're going from their perspective. So it was always kind of like, that's who they are. But was it ever really confirmed? But yeah, as we know, according to the Star Wars Timelines book, you can't really see it behind me, but it is there. He is dating back to like 25,000 BBY or something crazy like that. He even mentions, oh, I'm still mainly 75% like original parts somehow from all the way back then at one point in the series. But yeah, I thought that was a cool touch, just like this moment, because he is a character that has encountered so much with all the different Jedi. You would figure he is full of stories. I want to know the stories he was telling Ahsoka. I'm guessing it's the same stories that maybe Baylan Skoll knew about Peridia. But yeah, I thought that was awesome. By the way, as we're at this area in the actual show, just seeing the subtle change of what hyperspace tunnels look like through the perspective of the Purgle, I thought that looked awesome. The visual effects were awesome. And then cutting from that to the Eye of Sion coming out of hyperspace, and it was like a storm. I absolutely love the effect of just hyperspace, and just the idea of us seeing hyperspace for 40 something years now, and then one show comes out and it's able to show different variations of what hyperspace looks like besides High Republic with the Path engine. Yeah, shout out to Matthew from Ion Cannon.
Well, I mean, you have that, and then also even before we saw the Eye of Sion pop out, I like how they added in far, far away underneath the Ahsoka title when it popped up, like, signifying, hey, like, this galaxy is also far, far away, like, that our heroes are traveling to. So I like that they even added that in as a subtitle as well. So, that whole sequence was really cool. And, like you said, it was neat seeing, like, the Eye of Sion, like, popping out. It was kind of like a little dark on, like what Baylan and the witches were talking about, though, because if you think about it, it's kind of like morbid or a little dark that, like, he's talking about the whales come there to die. So that means we just saw Ahsoka's whales.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, Ahsoka's whales, like, going there to die. So it's like, ooh, man, like, that's kind of dark. But I like that there's like an explanation, because the thing is, they have to have like an explanation in universe as to why out of all locations in the whole billions of light years of galaxy, why would the whales choose to go there? But I mean, if that's their like resting place, then that would explain why Ahsoka's going there. And then, that would show why she's going there, just because, like, hey, that's where the Purgle went with Ezra.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, and it is making things, for me, make a lot more sense when it seems like these are the two spots between the galaxies that you're going to end up. You're going to either end up at Peridia, or you're going to either end up what's the location where they leave from that planet? I forget the name.
Darkana.
Arcana? Or
I think it's Darkana with a D as in dog.
Oh,
Darkana.
okay. So Darkana and Peridia are basically linked between Purgle as like the exit points or what have you. So that's
Yep.
interesting because it's like, okay, on Lothal they jump, and I guess Peridia is like the first planet they'll ever end up to when they go to the other galaxy. I guess these Purgle that showed up at Darkana happened. I guess every Purgle has the knowledge of going to Peridia somehow. But I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, that's a cool planet from a distance. It's like, oh, it's got like, the asteroid belt around it, like Geonosis or something. But like, no, that's just fossilized bones of Purgle. So I thought that was a really cool artistic choice, but a really good storytelling choice at the same time. But it definitely makes this planet that's steeped in magic already like that much more iconic for me.
Oh yeah, I mean it definitely adds more into that whole interesting factor to it all. It adds into it even later in the episode when we get Balin talking about the place. So like I I don't know. I'm really excited to see what we get out of Peridia in these final two episodes. I really am because like there's a lot of potential here.
Oh yeah, a lot of potential for sure. What I was very pleasantly surprised by, I put out a message earlier to one of you guys before the episode came out. I said, my luck, this episode is just going to be a bunch of people talking on the Eye of Sion. It's going to be Balin Skull talking to his Padawan, and somebody's going to be talking to Sabine. Somebody's going to be talking about Morgan Elsbeth, and 45 minutes will go by, then they'll appear at the planet, and that's how the episode's going to end. So I was so psyched when they actually get down to the planet, and I had no idea there was going to be legit Nightsisters. I was always kind of rubbed the wrong way a little bit when Morgan Elsbeth was like, said to have been a Nightsister, because she doesn't really look like a Nightsister. She's more human than anything else. She looks, I guess, like Marin from Jedi Survivor rather than Marin from Jedi Fallen Order, right? Like she's the much more human looking Nightsister. But the fact that we actually got the Great Mothers, so that's another thing entirely. I'm already intrigued because you have three of them. They're called Great Mothers, but then you have Mother Talzin from Dathomir. So it's like there's already so much added to the Nightsister lore about this is where the ancestors originally were. Did they say they rode Purgle, or was that just in my mind?
No, they said that.
Wow, that's insane. So the Nightsisters are literally from another galaxy, and they settled on Dathomir because I'm guessing the power of the magic was very strong. Kind of like how certain planets like Dagobah has this innate ability of the Force, or an innate Force vergences and whatnot, like the caves and stuff. So already, like if the episode ended here, I would have been like, yes, this episode is great already because we're adding to Star Wars lore. There's a moment when they mention that Ezra, that Sabine is strong in the Force. Like, oh, what is she doing here, the Jedi or something? Like, that's the first time she was acknowledged by anybody to actually even being anywhere near strong in the Force. So that automatically adds to her character drawing of like, oh, we have to still pay attention to her because apparently these strong Force users, they're saying that she is the potential to be a strong Force user.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they said she reeks of Jedi, so it's like, what does that mean? Also, it makes you wonder as well. I mean, you have that, but I think there's a couple potentials with that whole dialogue bit. Like, you have her saying, reeks of Jedi. Is she talking about Sabine directly, or is it because Sabine was around Balin and Shin, and maybe one of those two will eventually turn? That's something to consider, I think, as well. Just because, like with Balin, for example, I think he doesn't really give two craps about Thrawn's mission. Like it just seems like he's just. I mean, he even talks about like there being more. So like, I just think, yeah, it's like we got to either pay attention to Sabine, or like maybe it's something to do with Balin potentially. So like you have those, and yeah, it just, I don't know, this whole sequence like with the Great Mothers and Sabine, it just was really, I don't know, like all of this entire episode, I was just sitting on the edge of my seat, like, oh man, this is like lore building. Like, I just loved it.
That's great because it's Dave Filoni, right? So this is the guy that learned from George Lucas. So this lore is really powerful because this is coming from the man with the hat himself, right? So he is actively building upon what Lucas had mentored toward him. So that's what makes this really special is like, yeah, they're not gonna, Lucasfilm is probably not gonna let just any random writer tackle something as big as what happens with another galaxy in Star Wars, That is pretty foundational beyond anything in lore we've gotten in Star Wars to this day. Just the idea that there is another, not solar system, an entire galaxy that has tons and tons of solar systems. I could do an entire video, an entire podcast for 2 hours just on the limitations and the overall idea of what that could mean for all of Star Wars. So,
Well, hey, that's an idea for a podcast. Once Ahsoka ends, we could do a full hour podcast on that even.
yeah, sure could. Oh man, but yeah, so getting into it, I guess the next big thing we got to tackle it. The arrival of Thrawn. I really, again, this is one of those things they mentioned Thrawn. I mean, I'm a big watcher of Game of Thrones and other serialized TV where it's like.
Well, 1 second, Chris. Okay, so I do got a Thrawn there. I don't know about you, but did you get extremely nervous when the Great Mother was like, "You got to wait on Thrawn"? I was like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
this is gonna be till the final 5 seconds of
Exactly.
the episode, isn't it?"
No.
But
I was thinking it was
continue.
gonna. Yeah. So when she said that, I was like, oh, I just like groaned out loud. I said, oh, we're gonna be waiting till the last episode now for him to finally get up to show up here at this place. So again, it's just like I was saying about the ship. I'm pleasantly surprised because then all of a sudden a freaking chimera just shows up in the sky and it was the most glorious thing ever. So just the idea of the chimera as if you're a Rebels watcher, if you are just a fan of Thrawn from the books, about a Star Destroyer, didn't even have to explain it. Yep, you got the logo on the bottom of the Star Destroyer. That's a chimera. I love the attention to detail where it's so battle damaged. Somebody even online said like there's no way this thing could have traveled far because like its main thrusters aren't even powered on. Like this thing is like limping basically through the sky. Yeah, so what'd you think about just like the appearance of the chimera and just like its symbolism and all?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they nailed it. Like it looked, like you said, it looked great. It looked accurate for it being damaged and like ripped away by Purrgil across the entire galaxy. So I thought that was really well translated from Rebels to this show. And yeah, like like you said, the anticipation just like built and built because it's like, oh man, we're getting Thrawn like right now. We're not even having to wait until the final 5 seconds of this episode or the last episode of the season. Like we're getting him now. So like it was just incredible, like seeing those shots of the Chimera and like just wait, we're eventually, I mean, I'm assuming anyway, we're eventually going to be seeing him like, the Chimera in full-fledged, probably like flying off or like doing something with the Eye of Sion eventually. So like, I can't wait to see it more in action. And I think like one of my long-term, of course not like for this series, because I don't think we'll see them unite in this series, but I can't wait to see eventually maybe in like Mando season 4 or a second season of this show or something to see when Thrawn and Paleon eventually meet up.
Oh, that'll be an epic moment. That will be an epic moment for sure. But yeah, I mean, just breaking it down without waiting any longer. But just the idea that the importance of this entire scene, I knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming. Thrawn was all over the promotion. He was all over the promotion. We've seen Lars Mikkelsen's face painted blue for several months at this point. So it's just a matter of how are they going to do it? Are they going to pull it off? How magnificent is his entrance going to be? And I could say the fanfare was done perfectly. I've watched this moment so many damn times at this point. I've only watched the episode once, but I've been going back specifically to the Thrawn scenes, repeatedly just watching the Thrawn scenes. Not saying the rest of the episode is bad. It's just I'm just such a big fan of the character and just the way he's heralded by these creatures. I would call them creatures because it's like, wait, since when have stormtroopers chanted out somebody's name like sycophants or like fanatics essentially? And what the hell? Like there's something off about them. Like they got these strips of clothing on them. And then you turn around and you see this Commander Unak guy. And this guy looks like something straight out of like the Colosseum of Rome or something. Like it blew my mind about these troopers. I have so much speculation, as we'll get into, about these troopers, but just the way that they were presented as Thrawn's like noble bodyguards essentially, and just but they are very formal, right? This reminded me of something straight out of Return of the Jedi with the Emperor walking down the aisle, and you get to see him for the first time in the hangar bay exiting the Lambda class shuttle. I got the same vibes from this one. So not even hearing Thrawn, but just the build up. Like I love how the cinematography is done, showing from a high angle all the way from behind his head, showing like the boot angle of the troopers and seeing him from the side, seeing his boots, and then finally seeing him and like delivering one of the most badass lines of like, and you thought I was just a fantasy or something like that, and it's like you're in trouble now or something. Basically, it's like, yeah, somebody messed up, and this threat is my threat level is out there. Whoever did this, thank you, but now the galaxy is mine. Basically, like he is so arrogant and so in control as Thrawn would be. But yeah, it's enough of me talking. What was the reaction just to the overall sequence and all of build up to his event?
Well, for starters, I thought, oh man, when he said that line, I thought, man, all those Imperial warlords that were talking crap, or especially Gideon, were talking crap about him, are going to be in trouble eventually when he meets them. And then yeah, like just his entrance, like you said, his entrance was incredible. Like the buildup was incredible. It reminded me from it reminded me of like your Roman Colosseum, like the Emperor like showing up or whatever. So like it was really cool seeing like just the way he looked, the way he moved. Lars nailed it, and of course the voice sounded perfect because he's Thrawn's voice. So like it was amazing, like getting to see him, and like you said, to see the night troopers like chanting Thrawn and just acting so weird. And then like even Captain Enoch, like he even talked in like a weird language at one point in the episode, which was interesting. So it's just like, it's definitely interesting to see the troopers act that way to Thrawn, and like it was such like a grand entrance for a Grand Admiral, but it was, and like you said, this whole sequence has so many things layered into it that maybe say a casual fan wouldn't pick up on just because of like, hey, they're focused on Thrawn obviously because like that's what it was really intended to, but like when you look at the troopers, they had the same like little wrapping as Marak did. So to me, like, yeah, like that was like the same like little thread thing. So
look at a picture of Marak real quick. Keep talking.
Yeah, so like, because I saw someone post a picture over the weekend. It was like a side by side on Twitter, or X, I guess if you call it. But it was like a side by side, and it was like he had the same thing as Marak did when Marak had died, or like they did. So like to me, I don't know how they're gonna pull it off or do it, but like to me that means the troopers are just like Nightsister controlled or something. Like, and it's just like, what in the world? Like, I mean, I don't know. I guess if you think about it this way, I guess we can like be in kind of like semi-speculation territory right here. But like, I guess if you view it this way, how's Thrawn and these characters gonna be a threat for the galaxy when the Imperials have been disbanded and taken care of? Like, I guess the only way you do it is you give him an army or a bunch of troopers that are like controlled by Nightsister magic, and then have the Nightsisters on his side, plus potentially Balin and Shin. So like that's a pretty good threat to like Luke, Leia, the Rebels crew, and everybody. Like, so like it's a big threat to the galaxy. So like to me, like that's probably how they're gonna do it. But it's gonna be interesting just to see, because like, all right, you have this sequence playing out with Thrawn and the Night Troopers, and then you also have the gist of like why the episode took or isn't like progressing in the world, in the actual world, not our time, but like in the world, it's taking 3 days because I mean when you watch the episode, why are the Nightsisters moving like, it looks almost like coffins out of the catacombs, like some of those boxes. So it's like, what in the world?
Oh.
Like, what are they doing? Like, because they're, they said it'll take 3 days to move whatever, it'll take 3 days to move the items or whatever they were out of the
Oh
catacombs.
my
Like,
gosh.
what's in the catacombs is the question, because 3 days, that's 72 hours straight. If you think, I mean, I guarantee you Thrawn's not letting his troopers take breaks, so it's probably 72 hours straight. So what is going on?
They are
Is
moving
my
out.
question.
They are moving out. I didn't think about this. They're moving out all the old Nightsisters, and they're gonna resuscitate them, and they're gonna unleash them on different planets in the outer rim, and they're gonna just completely be taking over things. It's gonna be nuts.
Yep.
It's gonna be. Can you imagine seeing how? It's gonna be a TVMA episode whenever that airs, because I don't think kids are gonna really be able to sleep at night when they see the Night Sister zombies. Those things were creepy enough in Clone Wars. Can you imagine them in live action, even with Jedi Fallen Order? I was like, oh, running around, you know?
Oh man, you know what I just thought of actually on the spot? Think about this from like that perspective, like the Night Sister magic thing. So what if they, we like let's just lay in the camp of, say, the Night Troopers are reanimated Stormtroopers. Let's just go with that for a second. So like, what if the Night Sisters potentially, like you said, reanimate Night Sisters, or I don't know if there's Night Brothers, but Night Sisters. What if they do that though? And like you said, to unleash them on other planets. But here's an idea, Chris. What if they go and unleash them to, like, I don't know, where Imperials have died before or something? You know what I mean? Like because if you have all these Night Troopers here on Thrawn's ship, let's say potentially reanimated or something, like, could they go to, I don't know, Endor, I guess, or like, somewhere that has like a bunch of dead Imperials, and potentially bring back a bunch of army, to build an army for Thrawn.
Yeah,
Like,
this is
because they have to build some type of a mega threat for, like, the Mando the Mando crew, as well as the New Republic.
Oh my gosh. I have to go back now. See, this is what happens when you have a good episode, people. We start thinking about theories on the spot. So go with us on this journey. We're happy you're here listening as we're thinking. As you can hear our gears in our brains turning, we're thinking here on the spot. But I think Commander Enoch or the Stormtroopers their voice probably resembles Marok's voice, because I remember Marok's voice being like very warbly and like electronic focused. And then I heard these Stormtroopers and I said, oh, something's off about their voice. And then, so like Filoni's been, planting the seeds with Marok, and like, oh, why is this guy so mysterious? Why isn't he not taking his helmet off? And we see how he dies, and it was such an unnatural scream and stuff. It's like, what the hell is that dust? So the seeds were planted. I like how it's like any good reveal, it's like, oh, I should have seen this coming, right? Like there should have been things to kind of lead you up to, oh, I see how that was linked. So Marok is just like that seed that has been planted to get the viewer to be like, I see, the whole time Morgan Elsbeth had bewitched this Inquisitor they found somewhere. But
I mean, you have that. Also, an interesting thing too, I love all the mythological and different things Dave's like weaving into this series, just in terms of the naming of the characters. Like, you have Balin Skull and Shen Hati, which are both like, Norse legends. And then even Enoch is a biblical figure, actually, who like the basic like 2-second rundown on his and the Enoch story from like the biblical sense is like, it's pretty much like like a fallen archangel or something, that eventually, like, was able to like go into heaven walk into heaven with God without dying or something. So it just makes you wonder, like, what Dave's up to with all these like mythological and biblical connections. And it's cool because, like you pointed out, like, he's been mentored so much by George Lucas. Like, that is such like a George Lucas thing to do, like name a character directly after a biblical figure or a Norse mythology figure or whatever. Like, it's great seeing like Dave include these type of connections.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and something that I thought was really interesting about Thrawn was this whole idea, right? We are approximately 10 years after the events of when they got pulled by the Purgles. They've been out, Ezra, Thrawn, whoever's left on the Star Destroyer, 10 years. So obviously the Star Destroyers, we learned from somebody in our chat last week, 60,000 members aboard a Star Destroyer. Thrawn was saying something. Okay, so basically, they wanted to send reinforcements to go after Sabine and Ezra. So Morgan questioned him, or somebody questioned Thrawn about his tactics of, oh, we're going to just send out 2 deployments. And Thrawn replied, "Oh, my forces are dwindling," or something like basically like hinting at they've been fighting a battle against some other entity, and the men they have are very precious at this point. They can't lose many, so they can't send their whole army after Sabine. So that's one point that I think is going to come back at some time. Be like, okay, what is this other threat in the galaxy? Come on, I hope we get that answer at some point in this season at least.
Yeah, I know my buddy Star Wars Santa is always saying, "Come on, all he needs to do is just reference the Grisk at one
Yeah,
point."
I know, really. Come on.
But yeah, see, I also do think, like again, like you said, Dave's putting in little breadcrumbs and stuff. Okay, he's saying he's putting in this episode, his forces are dwindling. That means eventually his forces are going to be, you know, expanded, like probably huge or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like the build up to, like, you know, he's planting that seed in the audience's mind of like Thrawn saying, "Oh, our forces are dwindling," to build it up to a boom. Thrawn has an army eventually. You know, so like I think that's what Dave's doing there. Yeah, I mean, it's just good. I don't know. I feel like he does these. He really has made these episodes in such a nice way where like every scene there's something to talk about.
Yeah, this feels. This is how Rebels was back in the day, right? Like the later episodes of Rebels, they were so important. There was so much to glean. That was animation. This is live action, so there's even more stuff to sink our teeth into. The performances of the actors themselves. I love Lars Mikkelsen just picking things right up where he left off in Rebels season 4, right? It's just he doesn't need to yell at anybody. He doesn't need to just like he's got the presence. He could just you could tell this guy's got command. Like he's in charge, and just everything about like that interaction with him and Sabine was great, right? That's something that I never would have thought I would have seen. Just like these two animated characters going at it, and he's like, "Oh, it's so nice to see a friendly face," you know, like all these like little interactions, and the fact that he's always so far ahead. Like he just releases her. He's just like, "Yeah, I'll release you now. Go find him. Whatever. You'll probably be dead anyway. So what is no skin off my back."
Yeah, I love that whole sequence. Like them talking, like you said, it was something I would have never imagined I've seen. Like, you know, if we rewind 5 years ago, I would have never imagined us getting Rebels in live action like this. So it's just so incredible getting to see these moments in live action. And, you know, I loved that Thrawn doesn't care. Like, he's like, yeah, go ahead. Like, you know, give her a weapon and some rations or something and go be about your business. Just because it's like, he doesn't care. Like, you know, he probably hasn't cared really. I mean, obviously Ezra's probably like hiding or something at this point, or he probably has been or evading him. But at this point, in theory, like Thrawn doesn't care what Ezra or Sabine's up to, because at the end of the day, he's like, how are they going to get off the planet? There's no ships other than mine, so like, have at it. Go play in the mountains. It doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So another thing I really like about Thrawn is this episode shows you this guy's not messing around. He's not going to be a mustache twirling villain that's going to get defeated week by week. Like he is thinking ahead, and the idea of how he thinks about troopers as expendable, as a lot of leaders do. Not every leader does, and it's for another thing. But the idea that he was like, oh yeah, what if Balin and Shin don't come back in time? And he's just like, well, that's their fate. We're gonna leave them there. And I think that also leaves the door open for Balin and Shin to get into a moment where Thrawn is like trying to leave without them, and then they're gonna be like, well, screw this guy. He doesn't care about us. We don't need him anymore. And you were saying off the top of the episode about how they're probably not even cared about Thrawn in the first place anyway. And then we hear, I know I might be getting ahead of myself, about, you know, Balin is sensing something through the Force on this planet specifically. So I have no idea what that is, although apparently the whole community thinks it's some Legends character I've never heard or seen about. But anyway, I know I talked about 3 points right there in one statement. But anyway, yeah, what did you think about what did you think about Thrawn and his demeanor? And we haven't really seen him using any tactics yet, but do you like the way he's portrayed in live action?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think his portrayal is excellent. Like Lars nailed just the mannerisms of Thrawn, in my opinion. Just like, how he moves, how he looks at characters, how he moves his eyes, like just everything. The eyes look great, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that was my concern with Thrawn going into this whole theory series. Even though we saw him in the trailer, still was my concern was like, how will his eyes look in live action? And they look great. Like there's no issue there. So I thought he like his mannerisms, everything like just checks all the boxes. And yeah, like you said, you have his whole interaction already, like he doesn't really care for Balin and Shin already, which to me that's also foreshadowing potentially for something like something bigger with like Balin and Shin like down the road. Either I don't know, either they're going to turn on Thrawn and the Imperial people, or they're going to like maybe Thrawn tries to like say, hey, let's like get rid of these people, and like tries to off them, and then they join Ezra and the gang or something like maybe it's something along those lines. But also like the thing is when it comes to the whole sequence with like Thrawn like talking about them, it just to me, I think what they're gonna do is like they're setting up all this stuff with Thrawn because like we gotta get to the end of this series. I think we're gonna. But we're gonna get to the end of this first season, and like Thrawn's gonna be probably gonna pull a big trick on like Ahsoka and the good guys, like just to like set the tone of like, hey, this character is the bad guy of the universe right now, like so it's just the whole pull the carpet out from underneath all of them at the last second when they're not expecting it. Like maybe we get something like I don't even know. Maybe Ahsoka and Ezra think they have something won and then they don't. Like so I think there's that possibility. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they've done a great job already, and we're barely like into the Thrawn stuff in this episode.
Yeah, like I keep saying, they cover so much ground. Speaking of covering ground, we get to see some really cool creatures that cover ground for Sabine, and that is this thing called a howler. I'm telling you, like they made this planet feel like it was in a different galaxy. It really truly did. Like these creatures look like something out of an 80s fantasy movie like Labyrinth or like Dark Crystal or something. Like you could tell it's a puppet in a lot of those scenes. Like it's actually a man prop. It's like actually a prop, and then it's going to be animated. But I feel like there's a lot of life in that creature, and just like the little funny interactions that Sabine has. It's kind of reminding me of like Lord of the Rings, just like traveling the countryside, like these grand vistas, and just the overall, again, the production quality of this show just still sticks the landing every episode. There's nothing in here that I really go, oh, that's looking cheap. But I like the whole hero's journey that Sabine goes on in this.
Oh yeah, I thought her whole journey to find Ezra was done really well. It was a nice adventurous journey. Like this episode, I think I mentioned it in our group chat. But when the episode first came out, to me, like it really felt like this episode. Of course, it's Star Wars, but like you said, it feels like it's a different galaxy in terms of like location. Obviously, it isn't in universe. But to me, it feels like it's kind of like we went back to A New Hope of like, oh man, this all feels new. Like, everything feels new. The location, the environments, the animals, the Noti creatures as well that we're going to see with Ezra. And then even just the way the Stormtroopers looked. So like, it just felt like it was like a whole new Star Wars, basically,
Yeah, no, this is something I've been so curious about. It's just, what does a new Star Wars galaxy look like? Like, what are the differences? Obviously, every planet in a known galaxy is different enough, but then it's still like, oh, this is a peek at something new in Star Wars. I loved it. And also like those little shell creatures that she finds in the village with Ezra. I thought those were really cool too. It's like one of these like little Koopa things, but they're eye stalks. They reminded me of the caretakers from Last Jedi.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they did. I think they're called the Noti. I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
But I saw people saying that over online, like talking about them. So I'm assuming that's the official name. I think, anyways. But yeah, I mean, it was cool seeing those creatures because, like you said, it's like a new creature variant introduced in Star Wars, and then the fact that like Ezra's like living with them, it makes it even more interesting. Is like how, how did he get to be living with these creatures versus like the other humans that are, I guess, other humanoids that are around?
Yeah, that's the big mystery. It's like I was like, oh wow, like why is Ezra not with Thrawn?
Well,
There's a lot of
even if you
mystery
think
here.
about it, Captain, like even if you think about it, like when Sabine before she went on her journey, before we get past Sabine's journey, um, Captain Enoch gave her like the warning about the people out there or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
So like, so like, it makes you wonder who like who those bandits are. Like, are those bandits like how would they be there? Are they what do you call them when you leave a crew?
Like a nomad or something?
No, like
I
when you
call them.
leave the army.
Oh, deserters?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, what if they're deserters or something from Thrawn's group? Like,
I
you know, like I don't know.
I don't know. I got the impression they were aliens.
Yeah.
Immediately I said Embo because I seen a guy with the characteristic hat of Embo. I was like, oh my gosh, is Embo in this galaxy? And it doesn't take long for him to get felled. But yeah, I thought again, like this has great choreography. I like how Sabine is struggling with her blasters, just not doing so well. But then she takes out the lightsaber and she channels into the Force and she just kicks butt at that point forward. But yeah, great designs. It shows the danger of even out there in another galaxy. You're gonna deal with things like this, and even Balin was saying, "Oh, we might make an alliance with them or something like that." To Shin at one point, but yeah, no, I like that a lot. I like these. I like this. It sprinkles in with the world building, right?
Yeah. It builds, it makes the world building that much more better, I would say. And then, like you said, you have Balin and Shin like talking about all of this stuff. Like, you have all this going on, and it's cutting back and forth, and you have Balin and Shin like talking about like this whole location and like its importance and everything. And Balin like talking about there being more and all this stuff. So it makes you wonder, like Shin talked about like the Jedi Order, and like Balin basically said, um, this, he basically like shut down the he basically shut down the idea of the old Jedi Order. But it makes you wonder. So like if Dave, I'm sure Dave talked to Zahn at some point in this process of creating this show. Like it makes you wonder if we're gonna have like a pseudo Joris Sabayoth situation where it's
Ooh,
like Balin is the Sabayoth and Ezra is the Luke getting recruited by Sabayoth to start his version of the Jedi Order, because that's literally what Sabayoth did in the third book. Like he was literally obviously in that series a clone, but he was basically, a Jedi wanting to start his own version of the Jedi Order.
hmm,
And it makes you wonder, like, because Balin, he didn't shut down the idea of a Jedi Order. He shut down the idea of the way the Jedi Order was before.
yeah.
So it makes me wonder if we're gonna eventually have him basically try to recruit Ezra and be like, "Yo, come on and join me. Let's start this thing." And you, me,
Yeah.
Shin, and Sabine or something. Like, so like that's what really got me thinking, because what else would Balin be wanting to do out there? So like you have that idea, but here's one, a big one that's also out there. So like Lucas's one of Lucas's original sequel drafts had Luke going and searching, in the unknown regions basically for the wills, and it
Hmm.
makes you wonder. Like, I don't know. I mean, could Dave? I like, because the thing is with Dave, this is the thing with him, is he could get bold, like, because Dave has that like Lucas type boldness. He go bold or go home with him, I feel like. So like it makes you wonder, like, does Dave like do a mega deep cut and like have Balin searching for like the origin of the wills or something? Like, because he's talking about there being so much more, and like, even in the prior episodes talking about like, like the beginning and all this stuff. So it just makes you wonder, like, what exactly is he searching for?
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. I mean, when it comes going back to Balin, yeah, you gotta imagine, like, he is like the most gray Jedi you'll ever see in Star Wars, I feel like, right? Like, he
Oh
is
yeah,
like this guy that
100%.
he is not like talking about the dark side at all, right? He's not like, oh, I gotta give in to the dark side. Maybe he's some kind of Sith acolyte, but he's also like he's dismissing like the idea of like the Jedi Council or whatever, or just the old way of doing. Like he follows the Force to his own desires, which are neither good nor bad. That's why I like the character so much right now, is because he is this undecided character that we're not really used to seeing in Star Wars a whole lot. Usually, a lot of these characters are just, especially in his eyes, he's the villain of the show, but he's not straight up evil. He is just, he's just out there for his own ends, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he's out there for his own ends. You have Shin like questioning and asking him about it. It makes me also, here's the thing too with Balin and Shin. I think there's a chance we get, maybe they split, like Balin is like done with the whole Thrawn stuff and Shin isn't, and like, you know, maybe they split. So like maybe it's something like that. Like, I don't know, it just, their whole character dynamics really interesting. Because like we really don't, I mean, we don't know anything about either of them, especially Shin. Like, we don't know anything about her history. At least we know a little bit about Balin. Like Shin, we don't know anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting to see where they take, of course, like all of our lead characters, but Balin and Shin over the next 2 episodes.
Yeah. So, what was your thoughts on Ezra and his introduction?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. So I was waiting. I knew soon as Sabine walked up, I thought they were gonna pull like a like kind of like a Batman Begins type trick. Like I thought it was gonna be where I thought it was gonna be where she's standing somewhere, camera looks at her, she's like looking for him, and then boom, Ezra's behind her. Like I was thinking they were gonna do something like that, like kind of like Commissioner Gordon and Batman, like going back and forth. But I knew eventually, like when she started walking up, I knew eventually he was gonna like say something to her. So like it was great. Like I thought it was a nice interaction. I know I saw some people like kind of complaining, like, "Oh, Sabine didn't like spill her guts on the whole situation." But here, okay, everybody has their right to their own critiques, blah blah blah. But this is my issue with that entire argument: is why would Sabine, like, why would Sabine basically, like, this is literally telling someone, "Hey, your greatest accomplishment as a Jedi, or a Jedi apprentice, I guess, or whatever, your greatest accomplishment." I basically just took that and threw that right out the window because I made a deal with the devil to come find you and let Thrawn basically back into our known galaxy. So basically your entire mission and life's purpose is just thrown right out the window. So like, I don't think, like, to me, like, I don't like to say it's not a valid critique or whatever, but the thing is, how, like, in the character's point of view, if you're Sabine, like, would you really have the guts just to like own up to your friend and be like, oh, hey, by the way, all that stuff, you know, you've been living out here for 10 years in the wilderness with these creatures. You know, all this stuff is basically for nothing because I made a quick deal to come find, you know, I made a deal with the bad guys to come find you. So like, it's just, I don't think, I don't even think that was like an appropriate time to like give that conversation. I feel like it's going to be something like maybe we get into this week, episode 7, and it's going to be like, they have a moment to themselves or something, and like Sabine's gonna be like, you know, it'll be like Ezra's gonna be like, hey, what's wrong? She'll be like something, 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 and then he'll be like, he'll probably push her on it more, and then she'll be like, let me tell you everything, and then it like cuts or something. Like, I feel like she'll spill her guts eventually, but like that whole sequence of her like talking with Ezra, I thought it was done really well, and I'm glad they didn't make Ezra go to the pushing angle in this episode, you know, be like, hey, what's wrong, like immediately. Like, so I think they did a really good job with it. And I don't know about you, Chris, but man, the actor oh man. Yeah, Iman, like him, the actor that plays Ezra, like he just nailed like the mannerisms, the smile, like it. I don't know about you, but like to me, if you just like glanced at it and didn't realize it was live action, I would just picture that as animation. Like,
I know.
He nailed it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Iman is just fantastic. Just delivery of the lines and just obviously his look. It's literally like animation come to life. But even just the interaction between him and Sabine, it felt, again, like that scene between Thrawn and Sabine, this felt like Rebels. Like this is the chemistry between the two actors. It felt right. It felt like this is actually an extension of what we know, you know? But
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's just Sabine is in so much trouble. And even Thrawn said this when he like freed her. He's like basically like you gambled the galaxy for a boy
Yeah.
because your galaxy is about to be under a lot of duress and intensity now because you've let me go. Like
I
you
mean that's literally what it is. Like, it's like you basically, you know, that's the hard choice. That's the character. You know, people talk about characters like not making hard choices. That's the hard character choice Sabine has to make and has to live with now, because now it's like, oh, I can take like the easy path to get to my friend, but then also I'm going to just let the biggest villain since the Emperor into our galaxy and probably unleash hell on the galaxy. So like, it's like, what do you do? Like, so so yeah, I really like this whole like interaction, the character like choices and like what they're doing with Sabine. I'm really liking how they're pushing her character along through the story, like giving her challenges, like, you know, giving her character her struggles, and then like it's setting up future, I would say future strife with Ezra, because you know eventually that's going to come out, and then Ezra's probably going to be like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? Like, you know, so I'm interested to see their interaction for sure this coming week, just because it's like, man, like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential here, and it's just like I can't believe we only have 2 episodes left. It's like I'm already ready for season 2.
I know, it's crazy. There's so much going on. As far as just like going back to, oh, not even going back to Thrawn, but yeah, going back to Thrawn at the end of the episode. And I put a video about this. Like Thrawn's weakness has been solved because his weakness in Rebels and his loss was because he could not predict the Force or anything. Like he cannot sense. Now he has Force users, the Great Mothers. They talk about their thread, and something is happening. There's somebody coming, and he wouldn't have known that because it's not a ship that's approaching. They don't have sensors for Purgle, right? I don't think they do, at least. So now that is the scary part, is you have Thrawn that has this army, that has a ship again, and that has access to people that can use the Force to predict things happening, which will give him an actual defensive mechanism. He's like, you know, destroy any Purgle that comes out with prejudice. You know, it's just like,
Yep.
this is scary having a Thrawn that is able to foresee things now.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it too, you have that, and you have the whole sequence of him talking to them about, you know, oh, Ahsoka's coming, like, so, you know, tell me everything I need to know about her master, her training, her this, her whole like life history. So now it's going to be interesting to see, because to me, I think with them having Thrawn ask about her master and stuff, to
Ooh.
me, I'm not sure about you, Chris, but this is my idea. Whether it be the 7th or 8th episode, we have to have a face to face with Thrawn and Ahsoka. And I think Thrawn's going to bring up Anakin to her, like,
Oh yeah.
because why else would they have Anakin? Why else would they have Anakin? Have Thrawn give that scene, like give that dialogue. I think Thrawn's going to bring it up to her. So it's just like, it's great. We're already getting kind of that whole evil Sherlock Holmes from Thrawn in this episode, and then even just adding in, you know, you're already starting to build like the little villain side of things. It's like the little cheeky villain stuff of, hey, yeah, you can go find your friend, and then eventually he's like, yeah, I told her she can go find her friend, but you guys can go kill her. Basically, you know, she can see her friend and then die. So like, you know, he's already adding in some of that like villain type behavior, which is good. So just like it increases like the threat more and more to our like heroes and like everybody going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing I want to talk about is just the idea of the cruiser and like what is exactly going on, because it's been 10 years. Does Ezra just kind of leave the Star Destroyer on his own? I'm sure we're going to find this out next episode, so I probably shouldn't even take time to talk about it, but just like, I'm wondering about the whole idea of the Star Destroyer. How far can Thrawn travel in the Star Destroyer? Where was he before? Did he find the Nightsisters when he first got there, or did did it take them to go through like they don't have a hyperspace, they have to travel very slowly through space or something like that. There's a lot of questions I have
I
just with
have
like overall, you know.
I have an idea for it. Well, Chris, I'm sure you would like this, but I feel like they may briefly touch that, but think 10 years, think about how long of a comic run you could do with that stuff. Like that could be that could be like a 35 issue comic run or something.
Wait, did you put that thought out there because they released a new comic book thing that had Thrawn on the front?
Oh no, no. I mean that's just my
Oh,
intuition, just like me
okay.
guessing. Oh,
Because, real quick aside, earlier this week they announced Star Wars Revelations issue number 1 for 2023. We had Revelations number 1 last year, and Revelations basically is a it's like a preview for the next year of Star Wars comics. Like last year, they previewed every one of the 5 or 6 ongoings and like what's happening at the end of the year. And it was like framed from the idea of like Vader going to Eye of Webbish Bog on Mustafar and
yep.
giving him a vision. They are coming out with a similar thing, and on the cover they have an image of Thrawn in his Grand Admiral outfit. And then later on in the week they said Revelations will, give you basically an update on these comics and and there will be new series as well. So I'm instantly thinking like, oh, are they gonna let a comic book writer even touch that stuff yet? I don't know. That's the only thing.
Oh yeah, that's true. Actually, Dave, especially if there's a season 2, which like Rosario and all them are pushing for and stuff. So like yeah, that is actually true. They probably will just keep that closed off for now. But even with that in mind, like yeah, I think there's a lot to tell here with Thrawn, with Ezra, with Sabine, with the Nightsisters. Also, I mean, even the thing at the end of the episode, what in the world is Thrawn like when he's like Nightsister or like come with me, great mothers, I need your dark magic. Like what's that about? Like what in the world's he using their assistance for in that? Like maybe are they like foretelling like the future about the Republic or something?
Yeah,
Like
maybe.
like I don't know. So
I
so I
like
mean
the idea. Oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, I was gonna say so you have that, and I know I've seen a lot of people talk about I mean, you might be able to pinpoint it better than I would, what book or whatever it was from. But I know I've seen a lot of creators talk about, I wonder if Dave's connecting this to what is it, in some book or comic, the Emperor was worried about what's going on in the unknown regions or something.
Oh yeah,
Like so
that's
yeah.
Thrawn. That's the Thrawn books. But I thought it was like, I thought he was thinking of Exegol though. I thought that's what he found was Exegol. And then they go to Exegol in the current comic run in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. And they already have a base established there. Actually, in the Star Wars Timelines book, it looks like Emperor found Exegol during the Clone Wars even. So maybe there is something out there extra. Huh. But anyway, oh my gosh, so much to get into. We can go on for so much longer, but I think it's a good time to give our thoughts and scores out of 10. Everybody out there watching live, go ahead, throw your scores in the chat, and we'll also include those as well. Milton couldn't be with us this week. He didn't think about the episode as highly as we did. He enjoyed the Thrawn parts. He enjoyed basically the other big nostalgia bits as well. I'm stalling time a little bit just so I can see what he said. Yeah, he had a crazy work week. He said I watched the episode. Honestly, I thought it was okay. Nothing special. Thrawn looked good in live action, and I did like the gold-faced Stormtrooper. So, a short and sweet reaction by Milton. I think he'll be back next week. Not sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, as far as I'll say, as I'm concerned, I really like this episode a lot. I was hooting and hollering with the reveal of Thrawn, a good old Star Wars reveal, right?
The organ music too, Chris. We haven't talked about it. The organ music.
Oh, that was perfect. Yeah, that was perfect. That was really, really good stuff there by the Kiners. Throwing that in there. Oh man, it's perfect. Perfect. Taking out all the big, because I gotta try to separate the nostalgia hit moments with just the overall story. And just the overall story is good because yes, we are getting Ahsoka. We have to it's their title of her show unless it's Book of Boba Fett, which in that case anything's up for grabs at this point. You don't have to be a main character to show up in your show, apparently, on a week basis. But we still got to see what's going on there. And we got forward momentum. We got a lot of forward momentum. We got a lot of great drama that is being built up between some of the characters like Ezra and Sabine, and then whatever happens when Ahsoka gets there, and why the heck did why didn't you destroy the map to Sabine? There's going to be so much drama that's going to be boiling up. Just the threat now. We have a clear threat in Thrawn. So much here. I got to give it a 9 out of 10. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I thought the episode was excellent. It's one of the best. Gosh, every week this feels like Mando season 2, where it's like, oh man, this is one of the best of the whole series. Oh, this is one of the best of the whole season. Like, to me, this was one of my favorite episodes of Star Wars television, just because it's like, hey, it's world building, it's character building. We got our big Thrawn moment that none of us like. I would have never imagined 20 years ago reading Heir to the Empire, getting Thrawn in live action like this. So it was just incredible. And then, of course, forgetting those hype moments like that, the intrigue of the story, whether it be, Ahsoka on the way with the whales, or Ezra and the Noti people. And then you got the whole intrigue of the Night Troopers and, like, if they're being controlled by the witch magic, like, what's going to happen with that? Because I could see that expanding huge, like really big. So it's just, there's a lot of possibilities here. And like you said, it gave forward momentum to the story. And it really sets us up big for next week. It, for me, I would say the episode was a 9.5. It's definitely one of the best ones. But I do want to point out, and it makes me wonder if they're going to do I wonder if we do like a Game of Thrones type thing where we get a battle next week and then a wrap up in the following week. So it makes me really wonder if we get a battle. I guess I keep saying next week and it's only 2 days away. In 48 hours, people will be watching the show. But it makes me wonder if we're going to get a battle this week and then some type of a wrap up the following week. So yeah, I mean, you have these possibilities, and to me, like, the show just keeps getting better and better each week. Like, it's just, this was a perfect, like, because I'm kind of viewing these last 3 episodes as kind of like a mini movie-ish type thing. Like, this is the good first act to the movie, I would say.
Yeah, I think you have a good assessment. A 9.5 out of 10. Yep, very good, very good, very good. If I were to predict how the rest of the season's going to go next week, as you said, in Game of Thrones, that penultimate episode is always the big battle one. We're going to get the big death scenes of something. Hey, maybe Ezra will die. Maybe that'll be the big thing. Maybe all this trouble, all this strife to get to Ezra. He gets killed. Thrawn gets released. It's the Empire Strikes Back of all Star Wars with this huge downer of an ending. And then we're going to have to wait like 3 years to see the next season or whatever it's going to be like. But, I mean, the next episode will be the big battle. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to see multiple Jedi fighting undead stormtroopers and maybe with some night magic going on with some green effects. And then that last episode is probably going to be your falling action, going to be your resolution. It's going to be Thrawn entering the known galaxy, maybe reuniting with Paleon, giving us a glimpse at what might be coming down the line in whatever episode it is. And guess what? I don't think anybody else is making it back off that planet. I think this is how these characters are not going to be able to interact with anybody in the sequel trilogy. I think these characters get marooned on this planet, and they're going to be stuck there for a very, very, very long time. And hell, that might even spawn another movie or something. I think that's going to be a big opener. It's like, okay, Sabine, Ahsoka, Ezra, everybody's going to be left out on that planet in another galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's heading in that type of direction, like your assessment, just because, like, I guess from my point of view is how are our heroes going to get back? Because are they going to just, like, I don't know. I don't think Thrawn's going to let him sneak onto the Chimera right before he takes off and goes with him. Like, you know what I mean? So it just makes you wonder how they're going to get back. I mean, I guess unless they find, like, a Purgle that's not going there to die, maybe. But other than that, like, I don't know how the heroes are going to get back. So I think we're heading into this type of a direction where it's going to be like your action maybe next week, and then, your resolution the following week. And like you said, maybe it's going to be like Thrawn popping back into the known galaxy. Maybe like in the finale or something, we get a cut to like Mon Mothma getting like an alert from like Carson Teva on the Outer Rim or something saying, "Holy smokes!"
Yep.
Like, we're in huge trouble. The entire like Chimera fleet has showed up or something.
Oh
So
my
like,
gosh.
maybe it's something like that. Maybe we get, hey, here's a wild card cameo. I mean, there's a chance we get him. It's like, what if in the finale, Thrawn calls that council? What if we see Moff Gideon like in terror or something? Like, terrified, like, because maybe they get a call from Thrawn or something. Like, um, maybe it's something.
Oh.
Maybe it's something along those lines. Because Gideon talks so much crap about Thrawn, and like to me, like I don't know, it's just bad. It's just forecasting. Like eventually, Thrawn's gonna be like, "Hey, I'm the one in control here." So,
Yeah.
like, I think there's a lot of possibilities where we're heading. Man, I'm just so excited. 2 days away.
Yeah, and that'll single-handedly blow the minds of a lot of people. I've been saying it. I think they killed one of Moff Gideon's clones. I think the real
Oh
Moff
yeah.
Gideon was somewhere else. So that would be a nice little zinger. Not only do you get like the reveal of Thrawn in a known galaxy, but then it's like, oh crap, that's actually the real Moff Gideon. Whoops.
Yeah. I feel like they have to be heading that way with Gideon because I don't know, he kind of went out like a chump. Like they gotta serve that character a little better justice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that will do it for me and Ben here on Outer Rim Transmission, episode 123. Thanks for everybody in the chat, Royal Farm Boy, Sims. I think the Night Troopers are android types powered by the witches. Yeah, I still think they are organics. I don't think they're androids. Although their voices, like I said, definitely sounded like androids. But yeah, that is
I
interesting.
mean, they might be talking like that literally because they're dead. You know what I mean? They don't have
Yeah,
emotion.
exactly. George says hi there, hello down the show.
Hello.
Thanks everybody for joining in the chat. You can follow us at our respective social platforms. You can find me on Twitter at Starrapter. Ben, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram talking Star Wars, fitness, or the NFL at Real Ben Maynard on both of those handles. And then you can find Milton Weber, or you can find Milton at Milton Weber7 on Twitter, and then Milton7Weber on Instagram.
Yeah, there you have it. So, for everybody here on the YouTube channel, for me, Ben, Milton, you can follow us, youtube.com/Starrapter for the latest on all Star Wars, and go ahead and search Outer Rim Transmission on Android, on Spotify, on Apple, and please give us the reviews for those good, positive Star Wars vibes. Join a really cool Star Wars community as well. Join us every Sunday at 7 p.m. here, youtube.com/Starrapter. So that's going to do it for me, for Ben, for Milton, who couldn't be here. This was episode 123 of Outer Rim Transmission. May the Force be with you always, end transmission.